Will everybody make sure that their devices are on silent? If anybody needs any information about tonight that are here present, there's in the table over there is a binder with everything and all agenda items. Those that are in the public that would like to follow along can visit rrps.org, District Information, School Board and Board, and they can find all the information that all the board members have. At this time, will everybody rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'll do roll call. Director Camaro will not be here tonight. He was not feeling well. So he didn't want to spread any germs. You'll also note that Noel is on his way back from a doctor's appointment, and he will be a few minutes late. So at this time, Brandy?
Here.
Matt?
Present.
Polly?
Here.
Nicole?
Here.
Bill?
Here.
Stacy?
Present.
John?
Here.
And Tim, the chair, is here. So we have 8 board members here. I'm looking item number 2 to approve the agenda as there is one change on item number 4.7. The approval of the hire of Stephen Von Wall for long-term sub. Additional information was turned in, and the prorated should be changed from 45,085 to 46,903. All board members have that in front of you. And one other item I would like to add is under 8.4 is an agreement with the City of Virginia for the SRO.
Where are we putting that?
8.4. So at this time, I'm looking for approval of the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Support.
Motion by Matt, second by Brandy. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. And I did not receive any requests for visitor input. So we'll move on to item number 4, the consent agenda. Looking for a motion.
Move to accept the consent agenda as amended with the amendment for salary under 4.7.
Support.
I have a motion by Director Schultz, second by Director Addy.
I'd like to just call for discussion, 4.2, payment of the bills, please.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor of the consent agenda, we will pull 4.2 for discussion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 4.2. Director Sorkin.
Yeah, I just had the same comments before, that I really don't see any Evelyn or Gilbert merchants or businesses being utilized when we pay the bills, when we have some that can provide services and products that we use here. And I'll say it again, I think we need to do that. A couple of things would be fuel. I know that there's one, is that the one out in Fail Townships that has diesel? and I don't know that we ever give them business. I know that we have a diesel tank in Evelyn, is that right, Bill? That we fill by somebody, and I don't know who even fills those. Does Intercity Oil fill that for us?
I have no idea.
If anybody else knows, but I think we need to spread the business around better. We've got a print shop in town. I don't know that we utilize our print shop. And we've got a grocery store in Evelyn. I can't think of any other particular ones in Gilbert, but I don't ever see their names as giving them business. And I continue to see large amounts for publishing and media, another $11,500 for APG. We got
That would be Mesabi Daily News, right?
Mesabi Daily News and probably the Manny Shopper and Hometown Focus and large bills. And I've asked for not just budgeted numbers, but actual to-date numbers and yearly numbers on some of these big ticket items. Again, on Teachers on Call, that's always a large expenditure every month. I know that part of that money is the actual salaries of those teachers. We might, budgeting times, consider looking at that again, to save us some money, to see if we can't do it a little different way. Those are some large expenditures that I see. And of course, legal fees.
I see the fuel part being as ICO has been supplying fuel to the district. I know that Virginia typically drives to the station over on North Side. That's been their fuel station. As far as Evelyn Gilbert, didn't they get their?
ICO, the station is.
It's closed now?
No, has been closed for probably 4 or 5 months now.
So we're getting our fuel from bulk fuel. I mean, where are we buying our fuel from for our buses? I mean, driving out to Fail, I just don't think would be financially feasible to be driving out there. I mean, if they want to bid on filling our tanks.
Well, some of those buses go to Fail to pick up into.
Is Edwards Oil in
Okay.
there.
As far as the advertising of the paper, Polly, I see that the Mesabi Daily News is a daily paper, minus 1 day, which is Monday.
Minus is pretty soon.
Okay, minus 2 days.
Coming soon.
The Hometown Focus is once a week. So there's where there's a discrepancy in the amount that we spend with those publishing companies, I do believe.
I'm not saying, I wasn't talking about discrepancy or
Well, there was,
total expenditures is what I was,
Every month every day there's
yeah.
help wanted, hire this, hire that, teachers needed, bus drivers, so.
and as far as the purchasing of groceries and stuff like that, I do believe that those people go on their own time.
That's true.
After school, they're going on their own time to get this stuff. So if you got residents living in Virginia and it's the grocery store on 53 or the one over on North Side, I mean, maybe they don't have the stuff. I mean, I know if I owned a grocery store and small like the one in Evelyn, and I come in and I cleaned them out of something, I think that would make me, we can work with them. I think it would be, I would think it would be up to the person that's purchasing the groceries to maybe work with the owner so we don't come out and clean them out of, whatever they buy, 10 bags of flour or something,
But I think you know that ahead, and you could tell the merchant that you are going to be needing that.
It should be convenient to the person that's buying them.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't have anything to do with supporting our own town merchants. The other one is W.A. Fisher, that's almost $9,000.
And what I'm going to do is talk to Spencer and find out, I'm guessing on the fuel, it's a yearly bid. So,
W.A. Fisher does all my printing. Why? Because really no one else around does it. I mean, if I was going to go have T-shirts made across the street, well, that's where I'd go. I wouldn't go to W.A. Fisher for any.
I'll find out answers on all these if they're
We've got
yearly bids or whatever.
clothing printer in town too, and
But we're talking.
We've talked you've brought up multiple times as well about cost savings, and it could potentially be cost savings, that people are going to those other locations because of cost savings.
well, we don't,
All the T-shirt places between Evelyn, Gilbert, and Virginia all have the Rockridge logo, so it doesn't,
Right.
anybody can go anywhere.
oh, that's right. That's independently. I don't know if we as a school district are going in one particular place. I guess I do see Intercity Oil for almost 20,000, so they're still operational.
It's good to look into, just to make sure that we're, doing our due diligence and spreading the wealth. And just seeing, and maybe you're right, maybe it's because of the lower cost or availability, but it probably is good to just like check on it.
They're all taxpayers too.
Very good.
Okay.
I have a motion to accept
So moved.
4.2. We have a motion by Director Schultz, second by Director Yuhan. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 5.1, North Star, whoop, what?
Can I just say on 414, can we get a letter written up to Karen Trimble for her years of service to our district?
Yes.
414?
Yes. 5.1, North Star Elementary Principals Report. Scott Manny,
All right.
come on down.
Thank you, thank you.
Sure. Is it was it at the end?
It's just at the end, I won't play it.
Okay. I'll have it ready to go.
Oh, thank you. First, I'd like to let the board know that I was part of the curriculum committee that met at 3:45 today. And one of the things, and they're going to bring everything back to the full board. I just kind of want to give you a little update. We're spending a lot of focus on the career academies, and a lot of it was specific dealing with 7th and 8th grade to build the foundation so when they get into 9th grade and get into the academies, they're able to make the right decisions. So I just want everybody to know that we had our initial meeting and we'll be bringing something, or Alicia Schroeder will be bringing it to the board at a later date for the board to look at and vote on and things like that.
I think we have that on as an agenda item as well.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you. I get on my part. First of all, a huge thank you for giving us those 3 days last year. A huge thank you. And I, as I said, I want to make it publicly known how proud I am of the North Star staff. This is what we did. We packed a building in 4 days. We moved to another town. We worked hard all summer to get it ready. And we had a very smooth fall opening. Knock on wood, it went really well. It was simply incredible. I would also like to publicly thank the towns of Evelyn and Gilbert for making us feel at home. It's as if we've been there for 20 years. It's a great building. It's a great setup. This proves that we can work together and we can accomplish anything. We are fiercely united. On the curricular side, I want to talk about our 6th grade on Wednesdays. They're doing project-based learning. So in the 6th grade, you get to have a choice. So you could take, we say it's fantasy football, but it's teaching pre-algebra through fantasy football. Or you could take our digital yearbook, or work on our newspaper. You can do windmill construction. And the last one is animal adaptation. So students get a choice, and then they're going to do projects around what they want to do and what they're interested in. So we're showing those academy model skills in 6th grade. And I know we've talked about the Meteor program. Well, the Meteor program is in full implementation for 5th grade. It's in full implementation for 6th grade now. So we talk about windows and mirrors. What skills students see in themselves, what they like to do, how they learn. So the Meteor was going to teach them that. So when they get into that new high school, they're going to have kind of a level of confidence. And the last one, I put this on everybody's counter. Research has shown one of the greatest things we can do to increase student learning is our questioning. So this is Costa's house. And what we want to do is we want to have our questions at level 3. So I'll kind of give you an example at a young age. Like a level 1 question would be what are the names of these animals? Like a level 2 question would be, what do animals have that are similar that live in northern Minnesota? But like a level 3 question is, hypothesize somewhere else in the world an animal from northern Minnesota could live and survive. And then where in the world would they not survive and why? It's that level 3 questioning we're striving at. So all our PLC work, our work in the building is all around questioning. So Mike, if you want to, I just want to give everyone a short little video of one of our teachers, Eli Little, teaching his class.
Whose house is this? Which spot do you want to spend the most time? Okay, we're just about to dive into why the loft and why we would want to spend the most time there. Now, when we're talking about level 1, when we're talking about down in this crawl space, I was telling you, it's okay to go down there sometimes, and sometimes you're going to have to go down there. This is going to be some of our easiest levels of thinking, where there's just a question being asked, and you're just going to be able to answer. All you got to do is you could even go on Google and just look it up. Okay? It's just something. It's like a yes or a no. It's like a decision-making situation. You're going to get to level 2, you're going to have to do a little bit of research, and that's going to be more of a Google situation. You might have to actually type that in, okay? But the level 3 situation is where I'm trying to get you guys to go right now with your vocab, where you actually have to think. You have to try and make a real-life connection. You have to use some of the prior knowledge that you have. You got to like try and swim your way through the stuff that you don't know to find the right answer. Okay, so that's what I'm having to do today.
Thank you. Anybody have, what questions do we have?
What kind of comments have you gotten from teaching staff, the parents you've interacted, as far as the experience in the Franklin so far? The former Franklin.
Okay.
It's still the Franklin.
Yes. We are very, very happy with our temporary new home. The green space, being able to expand, that building was set up very well when it was built back. It was in 1921 that one was built. Yeah, it's a nice place to do school. Our staff is happy. Our parents are happy. I even went around and talked to a lot of the community members that lived around there. And I mean, they're happy with our student behavior and how things are going. So yeah, it's going really well. I said, it's a great place to be for 2 years until our new home is built.
I guess I can attest to that too. I have a third grader that goes there, and I was kind of nervous, you know, like all parents, just for the bus ride. And I know that's silly, but we live in town, so we're just not used to that. But everything has just gone wonderfully, and he is so picky and he loves it. He loves his teacher. He loves the building. He's really happy there, and I'm really thrilled with how it's going.
Great.
Thank you.
The only issue we have sometimes is the lunchroom isn't built for 300 like at Virginia High School, so it gets a little cramped out there with 130 in a class. But that's a small problem we have to deal with.
I've been there while you and Jim take charge of that lunchroom, so you're kind of training kids to get into the armed forces the way you yell out commands there. So you guys do a great job, and the kids respond great and move out, and the next group comes in.
Thank you, thank you. No, much appreciated.
Thanks, Al.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, son. Okay. While it's not here, does anybody have a problem with us moving on to 6.0 Kraus Anderson and when Noel gets here?
I have no,
5.2.
Yep, that's fine by me.
no. Yeah.
Thank you. You're on early, guys.
Love it.
Doesn't mean you get to keep us late.
Well, now, wait a minute.
Oh, no.
Yeah, last time when Mr. Gallagher wasn't here, things went really smooth.
That's what
And
I
I think
heard.
it was, we got all the information we needed in 20 minutes.
Welcome back, Pat.
Thank you. Well, thank you again for giving us some time to update you on the quarterly report. I want to thank you for giving those 3 days to the Roosevelt School packing as well, because it made a big difference on starting the construction on time. We were skeptical, weren't we, Pete?
Yeah.
That they were going to clear that building in time so that we could get the abatement going and the demolition. And it really worked well. So great team effort, the school district and us as well. All right, so the purpose of tonight's quarterly report, this is the third quarter of the year. We only have one more quarter, and then we'll be wrapping up the high school at the end of that quarter. And then we will continue on with the North Star quarterly reports after that, and still some demolition. But the purpose of this meeting is to give you a snapshot of the core four that we have. 1 second here. There we go. Of all four of your current projects that are ongoing. And those four being the high school, the North Star, the Laurentian, and not to forget the demolition project as well. We go through the 4 key things in construction. Pretty much everything can fit in one of these 4 buckets. And that is the schedule, the safety, the quality, and the budget. So we also are working with, and Paul will be talking to you a little bit about the student builds under the quality portion. We're going to give you an update on where your students are as well, because they have to deal with all 4 of these areas as well. And then we'll have a contract amendment for the 2nd month in a row. I'm happy to say we're looking for a deduct to the actual overall Kraus Anderson contract as we take things. I'm looking right at you. 2nd month in a row today.
Yeah.
So part of that is as we balance out our projects here, Laurentian being completed, as we run into the next phases of these projects, we want to make sure all the projects balance to a net zero at the bottom. Given that, we also still have some additional funding we're going for North Star Elementary, and we will talk about that piece. So even though we're balanced on it, we have 4 areas of shortcomings that will be replenished if additional funding is actually received. So we'll start with schedule. You've seen this graphic before. It's good to see us past one of the projects. Laurentian, I think, is doing very well. We've had a few little things that we've been back over there for, working with your staff, but I think they're quite happy with the school. Have you heard anything different?
There was a little hiccup with music. We had a meet and confer meeting, and there's just not enough space for the music department at Laurentian. So they're having to, be creative in, finding space and then, some passing things and traffic things they're working through though too. So,
Okay.
but overall, it seems to be pretty positive.
I'm there every day too, dropping off, and all the things I hear are positive. Only one thing is they thought some sound deafening panels in the heart. Sometimes that gets a little loud, and the girls at the suite offices right past the heart have trouble making phone calls if that heart area is full.
So even with the baffles that are in there and on the walls,
There wasn't any on the walls. They thought it was
yeah,
all.
well, that's true. They're all baffles. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Let's make a note of that for the design team. We'll talk to them a little bit. Kind of hard to produce floor space at this point.
Yeah.
But maybe reallocate some floor space.
Yeah.
And we can talk about that in the next. So we are doing on Thursday, we'll do an AT meeting on the high school. We'll bring both of those up, Paul.
Yes.
And maybe you can step into that meeting for just that part.
They were talking too a little bit about solutions to that problem, and one thing that was brought up was possibly having a first-hour music class at the high school.
Yeah.
So they're being creative like they usually are. So
Good. Well, they're in the creative business. So
yes, right.
One of the other things with the playground up there, a lot of that was owner provided, but we got involved with that and got that completed. Sorry, it took a little bit of time here, but the rubber had to get in before the temperatures went down, and Pete pulled it off just in time. It was tight, but all of the playgrounds are now up and functioning. The fence is back up, the grass is back seeded and or sodded, so I think things are going very well there too. Anything else on the wrench? Okay.
Positive feedback on the indoor playground. They're loving it. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Laurentian High School. Boy, we're getting near the end here. And Paul's going to talk about a little more in depth about the high school, but for everybody's information, if you haven't heard, we're going to be done at the end of January. We will actually transition out of your Spectrum building here. We'll be gone at the end of January. Doesn't mean we'll be gone from all of the issues that are going to come up and questions. We'll still have people up here, but we'll operate out of our pickups and that type of thing.
Gonna be downtown, so.
We know where to find out.
So that's the high school, and we'll talk a little more on that. We are on schedule. There have been challenges. You've probably heard. There's a few supply system issues out there in the world. We have had those issues as well. Kind of crazy things like the internal workings of like main panels throughout the building. they were back ordered way back. I mean, we're talking a year and a half, they've been on order. And instead of not putting the panel in the wall, we just got the tub that goes in the wall, but we haven't gotten the guts for it because they're still back ordered. So we've had to do some different things there, buy guts from a different place and put those inside of it. So a lot of workarounds, but we are working through all those issues so that we could stay on schedule. North Star Elementary. If you were at the groundbreaking, you saw that Roosevelt is gone, and just as the last trucks were pulling off one side of the site, we were digging on the other side, putting footings in. Pete's going to give you a great update on that, but that whole transition happened, and it really went quite well, I think, as we went through that process, because it was just that fast. They were actually digging, I think, before we had the last load off the other side. All concerned about winter conditions. The more we get in the ground before it freezes, the better. And you'll see from Pete's presentation that the most critical part of the foundations is up against your existing gym, because that's 18 feet deep there, because we have to go down to your other foundations. So we're almost done with that concrete. We'll get that backfilled, and then we're down to a normal 6-foot depth for the rest of our foundations.
So Pat, you're 18 feet below grade at that point?
Yeah.
You hitting water?
No.
Wow.
We haven't.
Haven't even had to de-water
Okay.
with all the snow that we got.
No, I'm just saying, I mean, Virginia was built in a swamp, kind of, sort of.
Even better yet,
They might be hitting some petrified trees.
Okay, all right.
even better yet, we didn't hit any rock.
Yeah.
Okay.
So North Star will give you some detail on that. Then the demolition projects, as you know, we've reported before the junior high and Eveleth is down, and the Eveleth Manual Arts, as well as the Roosevelt we just talked about, and the Gilbert School is down, and we've got some updated photos for you on that. They are going to seed the black dirt that is down on that site. It got delayed a couple times. A lot of people are backed up right now with the end of the season, which is kind of normal, but the supply chain didn't help things. So, but we'll work on that. And then to come would be the Virginia High School. Right now in the budget, as we'll talk a little bit, we have the annex and the Malone, and the main high school we don't have the funding for yet. But if we get that funding, that would be in that same time frame. And then the Eveleth and Gilbert remaining portions of those campuses. So.
Would it add much to the cost if we go forward with the annex and the Malone that we have funded, but then have to demobilize and come back and do the high school at a later time?
It does add some
Yeah,
cost.
it's not cost effective, for sure.
The biggest thing is prices have been going up, so the lag in that, we can't hold them to that contract.
Sure.
That's the biggest thing. But
Was
yeah,
that the original plan, Pat, that we were gonna take down the Malone Hall and the annex and the tech building or whatever was just gonna stay until additional funding was available?
we were gonna, the way we bid it, you wanna talk this?
Yeah, sure. So the original plan and the way it was bid, and actually the way the contracts were written to the contractors, was the Malone Annex and the high school was all phase 2. So that would have been all at one time. So now we've reduced that phase 2 to remove the high school from demo and just have Malone Annex being demoed. So now we'll have to do more temporary partitions there and seal that off to possibly condemn the building. So that's why it's not cost effective.
The only upside is there are very few openings because that was built first. That school was built first, and basically Malone and the annex were tacked on. So there are very few openings to do, but yeah. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. We'll have a chance to do more. We have a demo coming.
We'll talk after.
Okay, so we are 100% complete with the Laurentian, 90% complete on the high school. We just looked at that percentage again today with Paul. 12% complete, 12% complete on North Star, and 87 complete on the demo. And that's got a star there because we don't have the remainder of the campuses in the budget anymore as we zeroed everything out. So
that's 87% of what is currently funded for.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So safety, an important thing. We have about 150 workers a day currently on the sites. 40 contractors. That's going to ramp up as North Star ramps up, and it'll go down as the high school completes. So it's going to kind of hang at about 150, but it'll just switch from one project to the next. This is a big deal to not have any lost time accidents or OSHA violations on this bigger project. And it's a testament to our field personnel and our PMs on their planning and just continuously hammering this. The most unsafe times on projects is right at the beginning and right at the end. Because in the beginning, you got people that don't know where things are and they're not familiar with each other. At the end, all they see is the barn and they're running towards it and they get sloppy. And things that they normally would have put a handrail on, well, I'm only going to do one thing so I don't put it on. So our field staff really has to stay on that during this time. But they're doing a great job. So quality. So one of the biggest things about quality is you got to teach in the academy how important quality is. So we're going to start with the student bills, and Paul's going to talk a little bit about those.
Absolutely, and the Wolverine constructors, the Rockridge Construction Department have continued to do a really amazing job. Right now, as you can see highlighted in the green there, your students, your builders, and your CTE staff are all putting together the 2 dugouts for the varsity baseball field. Those varsity dugouts will be complete within the next 2 to 3 weeks time frame. Just around that Thanksgiving break is when those will wrap up, and that is also when the snow will come. So it'll be nice not to be working outside every single day. And with the completion of those 2 varsity dugouts and us departing in the January timeframe, we'll be leaving this project with all 4 of your varsity field dugouts completed. Like we have highlighted in red there, and just to reinforce it, each one of those different slots that comes afterwards are all future opportunities that your students and your staff will be putting together. And right now, the advisory team, the athletic directors, and those staff are currently prioritizing which out of those are the most important to do in what order. And so that's a decision that the district is able to make. It doesn't necessarily have to be in this order. This was just a sample layout. The one other thing that I want to note is that for the 2 JV fields, that's JV baseball up at the north side and then JV softball down on the south side, do not currently have any foundations or rough-ins, mechanical, electrical, anything like that currently prepared for a future press box. So the plan at the time was just to do the varsity field. So just keep that in mind as just the facts of where we're at right now. Anything else to add on student builds? They're doing a great job.
No, I just saw on your agenda that you're going to talk about those press boxes for the 2 varsity fields. And again, yeah, how you do that, whatever we can do to help out.
Are those bottom 4 within our bonding money, or is that above and beyond will be school district money?
That's all school district money.
It's not in the bonding thing, though. This is to be extra money for us? Not in our project money?
Correct, and I think back when we talked about the value engineering, it was you have certain dollars set aside for aids for education, so you're getting dual use out of those. You're buying materials to educate the students and you're building your projects with that same money. So that's why we felt comfortable taking it out of the referendum.
Okay, so that'll be extra cost to us. Okay,
That is a cost that has to come out of your other budget.
all right, thanks, yeah.
All right, we'll keep moving here. Here's a photo of those 2 varsity baseball dugouts in progress. This is the state that they are in as of this week, and they're really coming together. Here you go. Okay, one other item on the quality front side of things. This is a big deal. I won't spend a lot of time on it, but I just wanted to share the results. Is that, as you know, a lot was invested into the envelopes of your building. That's the roof, that's the walls, that's the 6-sided box. And way at the onset of the project, 43 months ago now, a very, very, very intensive goal was set to have very low air infiltration be able to move through the envelope of your building. It was a goal that was like eight times better than what the building code is, and you ended up far exceeding that. So the great news is that the whole building air test was conducted on the Rockridge High School building. Now that its envelope had reached 100%, you have passed that test, and you have passed that test by a far degree, to the point where you can even empirically say that you have one of the tightest envelopes that was constructed on the planet, which is a big deal as it sits today. The other reason why this is important to you, there's a couple of them, is that your mechanical system was designed and was able to be reduced and pared back so that you could have open spaces that didn't have perimeter radiation. So you didn't have to pay for that radiation, you didn't have to pay for that piping, and that's only possible because of the low air infiltration rate that you have. Your mechanical equipment that you have in the building also does not have to work as hard because it's not constantly compensating for air that's leaking out and that you have to reheat or recool. And that helps with overall efficiency. You're going to see that reflected into your bottom line energy bills as well, which will have a direct operating cost impact in a positive manner. And overall, on the interior of the space, you're going to be able to better control and condition each of the individual rooms as well as the building as a whole. And so it has better interior comfort for the occupants on the inside. So this is a really big deal. Your building was hooked up. It looked like the International Space Station. There was sensors all over the place. It's a very sophisticated test that's run by a lot of different computers. And then at the conclusion of the test, a thermal imaging scan is also done of the outside of the building. And it is very, very difficult for air leakages to hide from a thermal imaging camera. So if there was one or two small areas, those were able to be cleaned up as well. So this is a great news story.
And when you think back 3 years ago, when we talked about how we were going to design the structure, there were some contributors that were looking to give dollars to the school district in this light. And it was like, well, do we want to put money in solar panels and alternative energy and windmills and that type of thing? Or should we seal this building up so we just don't need as much energy to run our school? And there was a very conscious decision. That's why I'm reminding everybody, because not everybody was on the board at the time. Let's seal the building up. Let's be as efficient as we can. Let's put efficient systems within it. We can always add solar panels and add windmills and add these other things, both for education and for actual energy. And you still have that option. But I have a very simple demonstration. So you suck the air out of the building with fans, and then when we open it, it expanded again.
And you can measure what
and
that
you can
change
measure
is.
what that difference is. So we couldn't open any doors anywhere in the exterior of the school during this entire test. And these big fans were in the doors, sucking everything out to crunch it down like that. And then once we open it up again, there's that difference, and that's how they measure that.
Yeah, just to make the public aware that, having a tight building is not, we do have fresh air exchange to this building, so it's not an incubator of any means or
it's a good
petri dish. Just to let them know that there is an air exchange in that building.
And the difference is you control the air exchange now. So you control how much fresh air, those are the CO sensors that you have in each of the spaces. So if I don't use this room, this big room that I don't want to turn the air over in if I don't need to, and then we're all in here and we're exhaling, so the sensor senses it, and then it sends fresh air in here because it needs it. It's not sending it here all the time, and it's not sending it here and it's going through the walls and going outside. So yes, very much you're controlling it for heat, you're controlling it for all of those, for the actual quality of oxygen levels as well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of building codes that mandate what those minimum flows are. And then as part of state of Minnesota requirements for these publicly funded projects, you're required to have a commissioning agent come in and verify that the air handling units and all of the air diffusers are actually outputting the correct amount of fresh air into the spaces. So not only was it thought about and designed into it, it's also being double checked by an independent third party as well to make sure that that's happening.
And just because people wanted to have operable windows because their old buildings had operable windows, pretty much each space has one operable window. And we just greatly encourage you not to use those until you give the system a chance to work, because it does start to throw off those systems. That's for a different session of the AT.
All right, sounds good. Also in the quality section, just going to go through a couple of pictures with the group here to give the board a sense of what's been occurring over the last quarter and what the state of the projects looks like today. So we'll start with the Rock Ridge High School project. Of course, this is the building and its associated parking lot areas itself. Sitting here today, you're 100% asphalt paved. You've got your striping in. The site has really come together nicely with the way that the plantings and the hardscapes and the really decorative site features that enhance the entries to your building and the surrounding learning environments and the learning courtyard. That's all come together very nicely. We're doing the final punch lists on the site the first week of November. And after that, your site work will be considered 100% complete on this project. Okay, this was taken from the northwest. So Borgen Road is right about here. Highway 53 is right about there. And this is from your beautiful synthetic turf playing fields, baseball, softball fields, looking back towards the Laurentian Elementary School down to the southeast. And you can really get a sense of your beautiful campus that's been put together here. And so all of these turf fields have now been trained on with all of your maintenance personnel as well as your athletic directors. All of your appropriate grooming equipment has been received. All of those devices and the actual maintenance of those fields has been passed along directly from the turf company to the district personnel responsible for maintaining those. So that's occurred as well.
There was a couple pieces that we were missing for the turf. Are those here now, the broom and the, or?
Yeah, there's one last, it's called a magnet attachment, and that's still on its way. It won't be needed until.
But the broom is here and everything else?
Yeah, we've got the rest of the pieces have arrived.
Wonderful.
Okay, and just an aerial shot of the nicest football fields, one of the nicest football fields that is in the, I don't know, state, maybe country. You have a beautiful, beautiful synthetic turf stadium that's been put together. The logos really came out nice, the alternating color bands. The grandstands are sitting up there. That decorative scrim is getting put together. It's right through that wall, actually, that they're snapping together, and that'll get put around the outside of the grandstands. And you can also get a sense of where the rest of these athletic events are. So this has really come together in a big way. The training for all of your scoreboards and how to use the sound system. We fired up the lights for the first time last Friday evening. And so all of that is working and being trained on, and you can finally see your athletics vision coming together here. And I know you can all picture what it'll be like sitting at a Friday night football game in the late fall, looking at the colors. Stadium lights are starting to come on, and it's a really magical vision that you put together here.
So when the scoreboard went up, Paul went to the 50-yard line and sat right there and sent me a photo, and he said, man, this is going to be cool. Just because we haven't talked too much about the stadium, it came together so quickly here in between quarterly reports. I just want to give you a quick tour so that you reorient when you go up there sometime. This is the concessions area with the window right there. Bathrooms are in the back here. And then right over here is the storage building that will be student built, but all the power comes through there. So we built just the corner there, and then we temporaried it in and weatherproof. Those panels can go in because those panels feed everything on the entire field. So it still is a project for them. They just tie into these two walls that we went like 10 feet in each direction from a corner. This is the shot put area, right?
Correct.
And this is the discus area, which is actually up on the Laurentian outfield for their ball field, but it's outside of that. There's actually two of them. You'll see it in one of the other photos. This track, this rubberized track is all in, but we have to get the lines on it yet. We're going between cold temperatures, and we had to have a 5-day waiting period after the last rubber application. And then we're also looking for, it's got to be dry for a period of time. So we have to weigh those three things. Anything else? The big Megatron board is right there. And you can't see it in this picture, but you'll see that this big plaza area really came out good with some beautiful stairs that come down right here. So you can walk over here and park quite easily as long as you're mobile. And you could also walk across to here if something comes together for that parking lot.
Is there handicap accessible over there then?
Yes, this side here has no steps. Because you're coming up a hill, we needed the steps there, but as you come up this handicap accessible, you can turn here.
Is there parking for handicap over there, or do they have to park in the parking lot?
You would have to park over in this lot or park down in one of these lots and be wheeled up.
I can check on the striping plan too, Patrick, but right there is a bank of spots.
Oh, yeah, there is.
And it is very possible that those are striped for handicap. I can you write that down on that piece of paper, please, Pete?
That would be awesome. Did that.
We will look at that and we'll let.
Thank you, yes,
They had to make codes, so I think you're probably right, that they would have to be within a certain distance.
sure.
Like this spot right here, that parking area, is there any accessibility here?
No,
Wall.
no, you gotta be a mountain goat, and I do it like several times a week, I come up the rocks. But I wouldn't advise it.
Is that the final color of the track? You're just gonna put lines on? That's the, okay.
Oh, these lines on the outside, we just have to, for the lanes and
Yeah.
starting.
But the
south.
track is black, to be clear.
Yeah.
Okay, great discussion, beautiful facility. And this is just one last shot that includes the Laurentian facility too. This is your Progress Parkway campus. We gotta get Pete's building in there as well.
Where are those playgrounds? Right there, and right there, and it swings right there, and it swings right there.
Beautiful, all right. Okay, and then just a couple of nice, easy rendering comparisons of your building. So this is you are at Rock Ridge High School. This is our school. This is our vision. This is the main entry, and I really think it is throwing off that vibe there. So that's the progress. You can see a lot of development has been done onto the site features to really bring together that plaza feel. And once things start to grow, and a couple last finishing touches that are even out there today that aren't in this picture, it really brings this all together. All right, and then you step inside those front doors and you get your wow factor, heavy timber structure, beautiful glass curtain walls, everybody together in the main commons, lots of student activity going on, and then you get these 3 boxes on each side too, so you get a taste of the educational experience. Technology, meeting, laboratory spaces. It's your first taste, your first survey. Come inside our building, but you're gonna get exposed passively to all those different things that are coming on. And on your first way in, welcome to our building, by the way. Here's our main office. Come on in. We'll help. What can we help you with? Really beautiful custom casework thing that's been done here, and you will be getting a nice graphic decal that'll be applied onto here too. So that has stayed in the project, and it's going to look really fantastic. All right, and then on the lower level of the commons, if you were to go over that railing, let me show you what we're doing inside the building. Let the students show you what they're doing visually, and you can also hear their presentations, so you can hear them describing what they're doing as well. So a great showcase space here in the center. Okay, and then where the meat and potatoes of the academic work occurs, we're now inside the learning neighborhoods. This is the first story, beautiful access to nature, beautiful access to natural light, lots of collaborative furniture to encourage students to share ideas. And even if you're not directly talking to somebody, let me look at what that person's writing on that writable wall surface. Let me overhear what those 2 other people are talking about too. Lot of idea exchange informally going on here, just by students being together and working together and having a blank template to be able to learn within.
And a lot of these baffles are being installed right now in this area. Back to your sound transferring, helps a lot.
Great. And the learning doesn't stop inside the building. Of course, the learning gets extended out to this beautiful space that's in between your 2 learning neighborhoods. It's now been fully landscaped. It's now been fully hardscaped. You can really get a sense of what that's going to be like. There's some beautiful permanent furniture that's been set up, and there's some additional semi-permanent movable type furniture so that it supports your flexibility for whatever you need out there too. Okay, and then one of your crown jewel spaces here, of course, the Performing Arts Center. Even sitting here today, those metal panels have progressed to about the 90% complete mark on the east wall. Couple more steps in this space that you'll see over the next 2 months is the wood floor is going to be going in. The pit filler is going to be going in. The seating package will be occurring the last week of November, which is only about 1 month away. And so a lot of the grandeur of the Performing Arts Center happens in the finishes, and the finishes are really starting now. So just prepare to be impressed, just to manage your expectations on that. It's going to be a really, really cool space. Okay, and then in your activities commons, the nerve center between your athletic spaces oriented there, so between the gymnasiums, between the pool, you can see that the fluid applied flooring is one of the big things that has been put in to the 80% complete mark, but you can really get a sense of what some of the different shapes and colors are going to be there. There's going to be a ton of things done with the fun furniture, as well as with those different seating areas. This nice decal has been applied, and just some more finishes will be occurring in this space as it progresses over the course of the next month. All right, and then in your fitness center, you can see all of your rubber floor, all of your turf, all of your custom branded weight equipment that says "We Are Wolverines" all over it has been installed. This fitness center is basically to the 100% finish mark here. And then up at your green stands is another shot of those. Again, that decorative scrim that goes around covers this side, and then the whole back side, and then this other closure part. That'll be in by, say, the end of this week, early next week. Over the course of the next 2 weeks, that'll be installed. Okay, Patrick, we'll turn this back over to you.
So Morgan couldn't be here tonight, so I get to cover demo because she loves demolition. Just real quick on demo, this is the actual demolition of Roosevelt before we started our foundations. You can see the annex and Malone in the background. Then we got down to this is the swimming pool that was taken out, and we got down to the foundations. You can just see your existing gym right. Oh no, that's the annex right there. This was, once we got done with the foundations and we removed that, we came in immediately with the backfill. That's all been compacted and tested, and that's all been approved by a third-party testing company. And then we did some more backfill, and then on the other side of this pile is where the 18-foot hole is, the excavation for those foundations. So, like I said, we were coming off one side and coming into the other. Gilbert, just to orient you, you can see where we're at the angle over there off the back side, pretty much from your bus garage area there, looking at an angle. This is the gymnasium that remains, and where we left this wall in place, and then we temporaried these openings in it. This was the beginning of the demolition. This is at 50%. Again, this is that wall where the gym is and the corridor in between. All of this, it's removed. And this is after we're just loading out the last couple of loads over here. And then we completely backfilled, again, compacted and tested, and then black dirt put down. This is like 3/4 of the topsoil is down, and then we're going to seed that. I believe it's tomorrow now. We're going to seed that out.
I went up there, Pat, and took a look. It looks really, really good.
Yeah, it did a good job.
It looks great, I think.
A lot of good coordination. You know, a lot of good neighbors there too. Sometimes when you demo, you get a little leery, right? And we make sure we spray enough water on it to keep the dust down and everything. But there was one gal that came over with fudge for the guys, and
Yeah,
you weren't there that day.
I missed that.
I find it hard to believe you missed that.
I know, right? Usually I don't. All right, North Star, groundbreaking, we started. And I gotta say thank you to one guy that's actually in the room, Scott Manny, and Stacy Lampa for putting together a great groundbreaking. It was a good turnout. Yes, all right, very good.
It really was, yeah.
No, I think it was a great turnout. You had a lot of representatives there too, congressmen and senate and everything, so it went really good.
So now, wait a minute, you can't just recognize them. Right here is Pete's little child right there, little dog.
It's little Cheyenne.
You gotta look close.
Yeah, she's little. So she did a little shoveling too.
And Scott was the last one to leave the site, so. Yeah.
Cookies in hand.
Yeah. So after our wonderful groundbreaking, I took a ride up in a plane with Bill Bryson. So thank you, Bill, if you're listening. Appreciate it. So I got to take this picture myself, actually. Credit myself. So just to get you orientated, so the Virginia High School, the Malone, the Annex, and the existing gym that's remaining. And like we talked before, the Malone Annex will be coming down to give us some buffer space between the high school and the new North Star. So don't make fun of my drawing. It's not as good as Cunningham or ARI, but I got a sketch in there of kind of the building footprint and how we're going to attach to the school. And it's kind of hard to tell in there, but those deep foundations are starting in this photo. So.
And where are the boilers in that picture, just so they know?
Yep, so the boilers are actually coming right out of the basement right here, and we're gonna come up the wall. And I'll show you a couple pictures of those.
Pete, I just wanted to say that picture really puts into perspective the amount of green space we're gaining, especially if we can get VHS taken down. That has always been an issue with the Roosevelt, is we never had enough green space for those kids to play in. And so I just haven't seen it from this perspective before. And
Me either.
I just am really thankful that we're able to give the kids spaces, green spaces to play in.
Yeah, and let's hope that
They'll actually have
grow
the
that.
most green space, now that I think about it, when you.
Now, don't start talking like that.
Well, there'll be parking and staff parking in there too as well, I do believe, right? On the original proposal, there was some.
No, you.
Nope. It's all, I wish I had the site design here, but.
You can show them
It's
there.
gonna be, it's gonna be more of a plaza entry with some hardscapes and landscapes. And then your basketball court will be down here. And a new playground container, like right where the annex is.
But as far as parking, Pete, could you show them where they currently have parking lots, they maintain those? That's why there's no parking on this site.
Oh, yeah, so sorry. We're actually utilizing one right now for storage. So there's a parking lot here to the west, and then a parking lot here to the north. And I think there's some parking down here that we are not using. And then right there.
And behind, on the far left, behind that row of houses is
Another lot.
almost a block of
Yeah,
triple parking.
and that's staying right now as parking for the high school too, yeah.
So everything they're using right now, they'll continue to use, except we'll be out of their way.
Yeah, we actually gained some.
So we'll still have that parking behind the alley, where you last were.
Right here.
Continue to have that?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I would just hope in the future that, I mean, just my perspective, that in the future that rendering would be tweaked a little bit to give the staff a little safe walking to the school instead of having to cross streets and avenues that maybe, we understand green space, you're gaining a lot of green space, but we also got to keep safety in mind for the staff.
You're losing a lot of people that may only have the North Star there.
What's that?
All the teachers are gonna be parking over here now, for the high school.
Yeah.
You're losing a lot of teachers.
You're losing.
Yeah, hell of a lot less cars there.
That'll be grades 3 through 6 in North Star.
Yeah.
Okay.
And keep in mind, this is still your building as well. It's for a lot of your supplies and maintenance.
And this field back here too.
No 40.
Go for it.
It's a long walk.
I have to say, I go by the North Star every day, and I'm constantly impressed at how, the progress and how clean the site is. I don't know, maybe I've never,
Oh,
Yeah, I'm just
no.
like, it's really clean. I'm just impressed by that. It is a lot of progress every day.
Like Pat mentioned, a good testament to our field guys stay on top of that to make sure clean, safe site, especially downtown atmosphere too. So.
Definitely.
Okay, so coming down to the ground level, this kind of orientates you, this arrow here from the northeast, looking down your east wall. So this is like the main entry wall, I'll call it. So that's where we're looking down here. Footings poured, got your south wall. That's this right here. And that was a double pour wall, so that they got one level in there, and now I believe that level's poured as well. I've been on vacation, so they're poured when I was gone.
Oh, you get a vacation, that's hard to believe.
Yeah, well, Pat lets me go sometime. So just kind of walking our way around the building here a little bit, coming down to that southeast corner, just to get a little closer view of that. And then that is your boiler vent stack piping right here. So that should be wrapping up here by the end of the month as well.
So that boiler is currently heating your existing gymnasium, but it is also the boilers that will heat your new building.
So just looking down the south wall and just another angle at the vent piping and the elevator lobbies for the existing gym right there. So we got the permanent walls in there actually right now. So we didn't have to temp it and then tear them down and put the permanents up after. So we just put our permanent walls up right now. And once we attach them, we can finish them with our insulation drywall.
And Pete, while you're looking at the gym, can you talk about the type of work you're doing inside of that existing gym?
Yeah, so obviously the boiler room, the boilers are up and running. And then we also have done some refinishing and rebranding in the lobby. So we've done demo there, some drywall patching, prepping for casework, and then also painting and getting some decals in there. So the painting and decals will probably come later in the project, just so we don't wreck them during the project. The main data room is up and running, I believe, right, Mike? So that's a big step forward as well. And then in the gym itself, we've replaced all the lights, so it's nice and bright LED lights in there. You can actually see the game now when they play. And then later on in the project, probably towards the end, we'll refinish the wood floor per the plan. So it'll be all the same lines as before. You'll have your cross courts, so same size as what you originally had.
Get some structural reinforcement on your trusses there as well. It was determined by code and by engineering, and you had some cracks on the block. I don't know if you ever noticed that when you were in that gym, but we went in, determined what that was, the design team, and we reinforced that with steel and welded that in ahead of time. So a lot of things were happening in there while we were demoing the building so that we could then put all of our efforts into the foundations.
And then down in the multi-purpose room, just about wrapped up with replacing all the lights there too. So we went all LEDs. So. All right. And this is just another view of the south wall. So up above here is going to be like your overhang. I don't think I have a rendering of that, but it'll be kind of overhanging the hill. That's going to be kind of a learning space, outdoor learning space. So these are steep foundations Pat was talking about, 18 feet down to match our existing footing depth. So those are really, really labor intensive. So we wanted to get those done first and get out of the ground and back to our normal 6 foot depth. So, because those are like multi-level pours, similar to that south wall you saw. So but that's about it. Moving along. I think budget.
So Patrick is going to give a brief summary, and then we'll talk about each individual project after that.
Okay, so we had currently on the budget itself, this is again Laurentian, the high school, the demolition, and the North Star. They all lead up to a total current of $193,300,828. We have currently spent 75% of all the current funds. We have 25% remaining. The vast majority of that is the high school, as we're 90% complete with the high school right now. So we'll go through each one of the projects in a little more detail because obviously this is just a roll-up of those costs. We'll go through and talk those three things, the schedule, compare it to how much we spent to that date, and these two percentages as we go through each one of these should be pretty close. And normally your expenditure should lag your schedule because we put it in the ground, then they bill it. It takes about 30 days for that money to leave the account. If you ever see the expenditures higher than your completion, there has to be a reason. Like sometimes we'll pre-buy something and have it come to the site. Getting pretty close to that on North Star because we're taking a lot of materials in because of the whole procurement issues and we're storing them on site. So in some cases you might see that where we bought all the insulation, we paid for it, it's sitting on site, but we haven't put it into the building yet. So we'll go through each one of these, and then contingency is an indicator of how much we have left for any unforeseens. I'm gonna talk to high school and we'll go from there.
You got it. Thank you, Patrick. Okay, I'll start in the top left. But on the schedule, again, with this report as being as of 30 September, that leaves 4 months. That's October, November, December, and then January of 2023 with our departure on January 27th. That's how we get to the finish line. Again, that's out of a total pool of 30 months of active construction preceded by 16 months of design. So we'll be almost 4 years from let's get this started to here's your keys. And so we'll have one more quarterly report for the high school. It'll be the last time that you have to listen to me. And that'll be in January's quarterly reporting on that, that final sequence. So
We'll bring you back for one more after.
okay, fine. All right. And that leads to 90%. On the expenditure side of things, again, we've listed these numbers. We meet with Spencer and go through all of these payments, all of what he's dished out, all of what the hard costs are, all of what the soft costs are. We go through that in great detail each month. This is a just rolled up summary graphic of what that amount is, but that's where we get that data from.
Where you have on the bottom, the fundraising commitment of 360, is that cash in hand?
So the 360,000 that's been committed this quarter is from the district's fundraising spreadsheet. To date, all of them have been cash in hand. This one, I believe, may be partially hybrid, where half of this has been received and half of it is still to be paid. But that's how several other of your fundraising commitments have been, like if someone has a multi-year commitment, for example.
Yeah.
So I'd say 50% of this is cash in hand.
So we've overspent. If there's 100,000 left and 50% of 360, we're relying and I don't want to get bogged down on that.
Anything else on that, Patrick?
No, just, I mean, obviously, cash flow wise, we're still okay because we still.
Oh, yeah, you got other money in the bank.
Right. What you're saying is if for some reason, if these contributors were to back out.
Correct.
You're correct. We would, half of that would be short at that point.
Okay, great question. And then on the contingency side of things, again, one of the bottom line summaries is that there's been one more fundraising commitment to the project. We're likely not anticipating another one. If there is, it would be a relatively small one, maybe another $100,000 or so that's hanging out there. This is one of the last contributions to help replenish that contingency, again, that's been spent on upgrades. And that's where we're at today. If you were to ask me, bottom line, where is the high school project going to land? You're going to spend exactly every dollar that you have available to this project with the fundraising commitments to date. There's not a projected savings, but there's not a projected overage of $1 million or $2 million. And on something that is $120 million, even a 1% difference is over 1 million. And so it's going to be within 1/100% of what we're looking at right now. That's plus or minus like $100,000.
So you got to wonder how it comes out like that. It's this back and forth, this meeting we have every month with Spencer and Willie looking at what you have. Okay, I've got commitments for this, but I don't have the dollars yet. Okay, then we can kick this scope loose and we can get that installed. And then when we get, we'll buy it out of the contingency dollars, and then when you get the fundraising dollars, we'll replenish the contingency dollars. That's how this, it's back to what you said, we don't want to overcommit and say we're going to do all these things and we're going to go make X amount of dollars in fundraising to pay for it. It was this back and forth of incremental, we'll move forward on this because we have commitments, oh, now the cash is in hand, and we'll move forward on the next piece. So really good cooperation back and forth between Spencer, the district, us, Willie on what he has for realistic fundraising, and it's worked really well. And that contingency, you've seen it go down. Hasn't gone negative yet, but it's gone down and then comes back up again when we get those funding.
And in terms of outstanding risks, you've now completed over 99% of your exterior work. You've now completed over 50% of the finished punch lists inside of the spaces. The amount of things that are left for any one company to do can be written on a single piece of paper. And so you don't have big unforeseen conditions that are hanging out there anymore at this point in the project. And so when all this gets looked at every single month, it gets refined, and we're now towards that, 90% complete is very far along with the building of this duration. And that's what lets us get down to that level of confidence.
Okay, any questions on the high school? We'll move on to demolition. Notice how the colors match the, never mind. It was a big deal, big conversation with us. So when you do the spreadsheet, do we carry those colors all the way through? Anyway, we did. So here's where we're at. Schedule, 87% complete. Again, this demolition project excludes the VHS, the actual high school proper, the Gilbert Junior High, Nell Sheen, the Evelith Gilbert High School and gym, and then the Franklin Elementary. We get additional funding, we put that in, we'll change all these numbers, but this is everything that we've done to date. 87% complete. We've only spent 49% because we just finished Gilbert and they have to get their billing through our system right now. And contingency wise, we didn't spend a lot on these demo projects contingency wise. There are a few things, more of them on the hazardous materials side, where we ran into underground pipes that had asbestos on them, so we had to bring them back, that type of thing, but we've been managing that quite well. Just down here at the bottom, unfunded demolition, again, are those spaces, and hopefully we can get the funding to do those. And the remaining 70,000 square feet of demolition is allocated to Virginia's Malone Hall and Annex, because those two are in this scope.
What's the related dollar figure that relates to the 70,000 square feet for Virginia Malone Hall and Annex?
It'd be right here, 70,000.
That's 70,000 square feet.
Square feet, yep.
It's a dollar amount,
Yeah, we don't have.
approximately, just a ballpark.
It's about $10 a square foot.
No, it's like 1.2 or 1.3 million.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's demolition, North Star.
I can confirm that too for you.
Yep,
That's
we'll put
close.
it on there next time.
Looking
Okay,
for
North Star. So as Pat said, the expenditures to schedule is really close together right now on North Star. You may see this flip the other way on the next quarterly report, because we're gonna start buying a lot of materials ahead of time. Like you mentioned, insulation, roofing, and that kind of stuff. But the contractors don't get paid unless they have insurance certs and photographic documentation of where it's being stored, or if it's stored on site. That's when they get paid. So you have your materials and they'll be stored properly. So that's when they get paid. Okay. About a 17-month duration, and we're only a couple months into it. We're getting rolling, and a couple things I didn't mention over the next month or so. You're going to see precast go up by the end of November. So you're going to see some big towers come up out of the ground as well. So that's when you'll know the concrete foundations are just about complete. Precast is up, and then our steel is going to start coming in at the end of November, and precast plank and metal studs in mid-December. So it's going to start coming together really quick. Down at the budget. Additional COVID funding relief needs, okay, and I got this list here. So the reason we broke this out is to show you how we got to the 7.3 million that's required that the North Star needs, okay? And it was just to break it out for you so you can see where those funds are coming from. You got your FF&E currently unfunded, that was the 1.3 million. The contingency was reduced down to 0, so we have no contingency currently. The general conditions we have reduced as well, and that is part of this amendment that Paul explained.
Could you define that again, general conditions?
So what are some examples? So your dumpsters, temporary enclosures, yeah, those kind of things, toilets. Yep. So those have been reduced. We do still have some general conditions, but it's not sufficient for a project this size for that long. Okay. Budget reallocation, so there was some savings and scope reduction from demo that we moved over to North Star into its column to help it become whole. And then obviously with cost of work, there's design and CM fees that go along with those. And that totals your 7.3 million of COVID state funding relief needs.
So that's money that's in the budget that we don't have? Or that money isn't in the budget, but we need this to finish the project?
To complete that school.
Yep. Correct. Any other questions on North Star?
I mean, didn't we move all of our demolition money over to that? Where is?
3.3, I think it says.
Yep.
So when we took that from demolition, then that's something that you had planned to demo that you couldn't. So when you get this, then it replenishes that.
So think of it as you move the demo money over to this column, and then once the North Star gets its funding, that money can be moved back into demo.
Guaranteed?
Well, technically it's up to you guys where you want to move it, but yes, that's, if you want to put it back to where it came from, it would go in the demo column.
But we still would be, even if we fully fund the demo budget back to the 7.5 million, that isn't enough to demo everything we need to demo, given.
That is correct.
The cost of that. And that's where it's incumbent on us to try and find viable ulterior uses, alternate uses of whatever properties we can.
Sell off property.
Modern buildings are in the Evelyn campus, obviously.
So I think we were like 4 million short in the demo budget before we took 3.5 million out of it.
Exactly.
That's a murder.
If you add that 4 million to the 7.3, then we're close to being able to do everything we wanted to do to begin with.
Yes. Any other questions? Otherwise, I think we'll go to the amendment. You're up, Mr. Noel.
All right, to go through contract amendment number 6 here of the quarterly report, I just added this graphic in this time. It just helps give a recap for the board of what the original referendum values were here, and then how things have changed over each one of these 6 different amendments. So that's simply what this graphic is showing here. It's just a graphic way of depicting this information. I'll advance the slide. That you have seen this table many, many times before, also included with that bar chart is just a different way to show the info. So in this amendment, there are 2 different primary things occurring. The first one is that there's a fundraising contribution of $360,000 to the Rockridge High School project. And then as that's the change to the funding. And then with all of the different budget reallocations and balancing and budget alignment process, there was also a significant reduction to the general conditions budget for the North Star Elementary School project. This table, we don't have to go through in great detail. It's included into your packets. It's included into your copy of the presentation. But as you go through this, or if you have any other questions about this, what this document shows is that this was the original, if you total up all of the different original columns, that'll get you to your $178.5 million. And that's all shown under this base project scope. Everything that's been listed out afterwards is just shows what it was for, what project column it went to, and what the value of those adjustments were. And I'm just going to flip back one more slide. So for example, all of these different funding commitments and then all of these different funding commitments are all shown right here and listed out. So we don't have to go through them all. We've gone through them all really in the past. So that's just how this operates. To give a summary of what amendment number 6 is for, as Patrick has mentioned when he first started out, for the second quarter in a row, this will actually represent a deduction or credit to the items that the Kraus Anderson construction team manages, which, as we've talked about before, consists of 4 primary things. The reason why it's such a large credit this time is specifically due to the general conditions reduction on the North Star project. The one thing to note is that if or when additional funding is committed to the project that would replenish those general conditions, you would see in the future, 1, 2, 3 quarters from now, a mirrored entry of this for, say, plus 517,000, again, to reimburse that amount. There have been no changes to the site services. There are no changes to reimbursable expenses, and the fee is an aggregate of some of the reductions on, for example, the North Star project, and then some of the funding commitments that increase the scope on other projects. It balances out to a small addition there. So that is how you get to the net of 513,000. Again, this is just all of the details, just like we showed on that last funding slide. We don't have to go through this in excruciating detail, but this is all the backup of exactly how you get to minus 517,000 plus 3,000, the net change of the amendment, and then what actually transpired on each individual column of the project as well. So those are the details there.
So is that general conditions, 517,000, is that kind of basically like you're borrowing now and you'll pay it back later type of a deal? Or you're not using it now, so you're taking it out of the...
Actually, we don't need it yet, but we'll need it towards the end of the project.
Right,
So we
but-
need to solve that problem between
Okay,
now and
that's what I was asking. You're kind of borrowing it from the budget, but it'll be put back.
Yep. We want to make sure each project balances to a 0 down at the bottom, so that's why we pulled that out at this point. And you are pursuing other funding availability because you have hired your lobbyist and you're working those.
And so that may or may not be put back in, or we may or may not get that money?
That's something that, there's a certain amount of hope involved in this, but
Yeah.
there have been some positive possibilities for additional funding.
Gotcha.
And we continue to provide that data to Spencer, and then they've been funneling that to your lobbyists. And
Yeah, and that's outside of our budget. That's outside of our real dollars. Okay.
so.
Okay. And if there's any other questions, otherwise, what we would be asking for is board approval, and our request would be for a vote on the approval of this amendment number 6 for a net value of negative 513,000, which again includes the fundraising commitment to Rockridge High School, the GC's reduction to the other project, and a couple other alignments.
Question, what if we didn't take out that 517,000 on paper here like this?
Then you'd go negative on the North Star project, on the budget as it is set up right now.
We wouldn't have any credit. We'd have a minus of a credit then, right? A minus 3,000.
We would have maintained, you wouldn't have had dollars to back up your budget. Does that make sense? Your revenues would be out of skew of your potential expenditure. You wouldn't have a balance sheet.
The general conditions, that's basically a reimbursement of expenses that you incur, correct?
Yeah, well, it's a budget we spend out of, but yes, yes. So as we get halfway through, we don't have any contingencies, so any unforeseens, you wouldn't have dollars for general conditions wise, we wouldn't have the funds to keep the site clean like you're talking about, and we wouldn't be able to pay all those bills for those little expendables that we need to build the project.
Chair, I would make a motion that we accept the contract amendment number 6 as presented.
Support.
We have a motion by Director Schultz, second by Director Schober. Is there any discussion?
I'm just nervous that that money might not be there. We're moving numbers around on paper, but to approve this, we might be,
I would just hope that the money, the additional funding that we get is strictly for demolition and not for the building. I mean, then we're trying to replenish our demolition money if at the state that these additional funding resources go strictly to demolition and not for building at this time. I mean, I'm just hoping that that's the case.
I'm hoping we don't have to spend a nickel on contingency, but is that realistic? I mean, and we have to build the building, we're committed to building the building, and it costs what it costs.
Yep.
And this is just a projection
Yes.
at this point in time, and we're gonna have 17 months to pull the rabbit out.
so number one is based on uncertain numbers and hope, as far as,
I don't think it's just a wild guess. I think that Cross Anderson has presented us with some numbers and a best possible scenario going forward under the
I
circumstances.
didn't say wild guess, I said hope and not a certainty.
Which
We knew that when we voted to move forward with construction of the North Star.
Yeah. And their numbers have all been on par, so now we know what we have to do, and they know what they have to do, and we can hopefully find some additional funds.
You know, it is what it is, and I do agree with you, Bill, that any of that money should go towards demo.
So just to be clear, those go back to the budget slide for North Star. Don't want to leave you with a false impression. These have to be put back in order to build the building. So the 7.3 has to come in. Anything above and beyond that could go to demo. And 3.3 of that is going back into demo.
But so if there was 4 million put back in, you could do everything with the school, but not replenish the demo budget at all.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
If there was 4 million, if basically we came up with 4 million more.
Oh, I see.
We could build the school, you'd have $1.5 million contingency, you could fully fund the furniture and fixtures, general conditions you could replace, but we wouldn't be able to put the 3.3 million back into the demo budget.
That's correct. Yep, now I get what you're saying. Yep.
Okay,
That paints a better picture than 7.3 at the bottom line there, as far as getting that building done.
We keep going back to your original scope and expectations on demo. We haven't forgotten that back.
But the original budget was 7.5.
okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
No.
So we have 7 yeses, and Director Sorkin voted no. Very good.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
You guys.
Thank you.
Turning to 5.2.
We'll go to 5.2, correct.
Thank you.
We are going to 5.2, Noel?
Superintendent report.
Superintendent report, correct.
Thank you, members of the board. A couple things I want to update you on. First is the strategic planning process. We still have the process going. We still are on target, and as I've said in the last couple school board meetings, we're still looking to get a rough draft of the document to you probably by the second meeting in November. So we're working behind the scenes, so I just want to let you know it's still going forward, and we hope to have the rough draft for you to look at, and then you can react to it, say what you think, tell me what you want to change, keep the same, and then we'll go from there. So that is still in the works. Second thing is, I believe you heard at least an update on the Curriculum Advisory Committee that had happened this afternoon. That is part of a longer process that we do with our curriculum. It'll come back into the World's Best Workforce. All of these things will come back to the board for your final approval. And in addition to that, some of that will also get worked into the strategic plan. You'll see it in there. And so these are not isolated activities. They all will link and weave in together. So it makes one coherent plan, so it makes sense. Third thing I want to update you is the most famous section of road in St. Louis County from Slumberland going up to Laurentian Elementary and to the high school. If you've ever driven on that road, you know what I'm talking about. There's a pothole or two. That is a road that you want to go very slowly on. However, it's good for shops and front end alignments. So here's where we're at on that road. That is not our road. We do not own that road. However, the cities have been working with VEDA. They do have a plan to fix the road from Slumberland going up to just a little bit shy of White Cedar Drive. And if you don't know where White Cedar Drive is, at Slumberland, if you turn up to Laurentian Elementary, the first road to the left, that's White Cedar Drive. That's actually the road that goes to the ball fields. So they're talking about fixing the road from Slumberland to just shy of White Cedar Drive. Unfortunately, they will not be able to repair it this fall. So it looks like they told me in the spring, they're going to start repairing that section of the road. So until that section of road is completed, just drive slowly and your car, everything will be just fine. But we do recognize it does need fixing. Everybody recognizes it does need fixing. They just can't get to it right now, but it is targeted. They do have a plan for it, so in the spring.
They did get an IRRB grant last Thursday.
Yes, they did. So a very kind, generous grant from the IRRR that will also help get that road put in much better condition. I would want to add one thing only because of the conversation that just took place a few minutes ago about where is some of this money going to come from, the process, just to inform the board. We are looking at multiple venues or ways so we can pick up some of this money shortfalls. Rock Ridge, we have probably the best story in the state of Minnesota of how COVID has just wrecked budget plans. It was planned properly, it was done properly, we hit the benchmarks, we had the money, and then COVID hit. Very few school districts or cities anywhere in the state of Minnesota passed something and then waited for a while, which is what we had to do with North Star, and then started the construction bidding process. But we had to do that because we had kids in buildings and we needed to put those kids in the buildings. So, and that we hit some things. Now, if this board made one great decision, it was this. You decided to start North Star construction 1 year early over the original plan. Had you not voted that way, it'd be worse. Yeah. The inflation that we would have hit. So that is actually, I know it's in an odd way, it's helping us right now. Otherwise, it would be worse. So what we're looking at is on the legislative front, political process. We're looking for 3 different strategies. 3 different possibilities because we don't want to put our eggs in one basket. And this is not the forum where we're going to go into detail about each one of those 3 possibilities. But just so you know, we are looking at three different avenues. So if one works, great. Maybe the second one works, but there were three different ways that we think that, I will use the words cautiously optimistic, because this is a really good case of how the COVID funding has just caused major, major issues. That was not even anticipated. So some of those we will not know for a while. That's just how it works. But we'll have to let things play out for a little while. But hopefully, I'm at this minute cautiously optimistic on that front. Any questions from the board about anything I said? Superintendent report?
I just want to reiterate or go back to the District Curriculum Advisory Committee. Over the last couple of years, you and I've had multiple conversations about the need for it and about my wanting to participate on that committee. So I just want to make that clear to everybody that I have been in contact with you about that. But
Oh, I remember you said something like last year about this time.
Yeah.
The year before that about this
Yep.
time too.
And followed up with emails as well. But there was a meeting today, so when I got here early today, and I saw a bunch of, cars in the parking lot, and I was wondering what was going on here today, and because I hadn't seen anything on Board Book or gotten an email or any, whatever. So come to find out, there was a District Curriculum Advisory Committee meeting today. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that I need to get an email to participate in those as well, because I would like to be a part of that group.
And we'll make sure you get one.
And a board member should be representing that group as well. And I voiced that probably 2 years ago that I'd like to participate.
You did.
Just reiterating.
Ditto for me. I'd like to be, I think I was put on the committee, so I would like to be notified as well.
I was as well.
And I think the school board curriculum committee will have to have a meeting here fairly soon to talk about what happened during the meeting and then the strategic plan, especially because there's a lot of curricular components in that. So if you're on the district school board committee, just expect we'll have to get a meeting here fairly soon.
So there's two different committees here you're talking about. You're talking about the Curriculum Advisory Committee, which is different than the Board Curriculum Committee. Yeah.
Yep. And I've reached out to him regarding both.
And I was on it the first year for 4 years, and there was never a Board Curriculum Committee ever met, so.
Yeah,
In my 4 years.
on the curriculum, District Curriculum Advisory and Staff Development is Brandy, Stacy Schultz, Nicole Culbertdahl, and Bill Laddie.
Thank you.
Okay, very good.
So stay tuned on that. Any other questions from the board? Thank you.
Thank you.
Move on to policies. Second reading.
I have a comment here. I'd like to, first of all, pull policy 1.2, because there's so much in there that's convoluted and contradictory. We haven't even talked about policy 203.5, and that also includes participation in agenda items and non-agenda items. Plus, our guidelines do not align with our form, which either one of them don't align with policy 206 or 203. So that one, I think, needs a lot more discussion. I could speak on it tonight, but I don't even know, if you don't have the policies with you, it would not make any sense. I would be willing to put together what I think are the incongruencies and the misalignments, and then submit it for everybody to study before we vote on the second reading here. Because the next one would be the third reading, and then I think we're going to have policies that's where we've had trouble already, is that because they don't align. So that one I'd like to pull, and then I'd like to speak on briefly on a couple of the others.
I would make a motion to acknowledge the second reading of all those policies listed in subdivision 7.
I just made a motion to pull. If I don't get a second to
I'll
pull.
second that.
I didn't realize it was a motion.
It was. I just said I wanted to.
You're right, relax, folks.
So,
You got that,
motion and a second.
got that, Chair Reardon?
Yes, I do.
I would just say to table that one
And
at
that's to pull
206,
7.1.2.
yeah.
And also 7.1.1 or just 7.1.2?
7.1.1 is policy 203.
Well, I'd like to discuss that because I have a suggestion, but I just think that needs to be tabled, postponed, that one. And because I said we aren't even talking about 203.5, which directly relates to 206. So, I mean, it's just, if you want them to make sense, there shouldn't be any, trouble with doing that.
Do you want to change your motion to also pull 7.1.1?
No, but I do have some discussion about it. I have some changes to suggest.
Okay, so.
Then we should just pull it. These are the second readings. If you have changes, then we should just pull it then.
Okay, well then, the other ones I'd like to discuss for some changes would be 203.2, 206.
Well, let's take this one.
Okay, you're gonna pull
7.1.1 and 7.1.2. Motion by Director Sorkin, second by
Okay.
Director Colbert-Dahl.
And in that, I think we have to insert discussion on 203.5.
So all those in favor of the motion to.
Discussion?
Huh?
no discussion?
Do we have discussion or?
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I mean, what do the members of the policy committee, I mean, do you, and frankly, I don't know who's on the policy.
I am on.
I am in, John.
I mean,
I'd like to hear what she has to say. I guess I don't know what she's talking about, so I'd like to know, it should be coherent, our policies.
And
Something we can discuss and maybe,
That's exactly what I want to do.
I mean, discuss and maybe adopt the second reading? Or is this something you want to make a change in these policies? It's going to require a lot more time than discussion.
Well, that's because we passed them all last time without any discussion. And when we make changes, I think we have to go back to the first reading. And that's why I wasn't in favor of passing them all carte blanche last time. And speaking of committees, committees are recommendation only, then it goes to the full board, and we've all talked about, yes, we all want input at the full board, no matter what a committee recommendation is. We've all said it, and that's all I'm asking for here. So.
yeah, no, I'm asking for is the people that were on the committee, I'm hearing there's some discrepancies in these policies, I guess, I mean.
I think for the most part, and I've been on the policy committee before, is we adopt MSBA policies because they've got the experts that write the policies and lawyers working on it. And so I don't know that we need to recreate the wheel every time.
Well, some of them are customizable, very much. Yeah, they're customizable, and even you, the last time, Matt, you saw where there's blanks that weren't filled in.
Yes.
And there's one situation here in one of the policies where there's no blank filled in. If it's as simple as that, we need to.
Discuss it. I agree.
The question I have is, through your discussion on the others, if we're going to do wordsmithing, then they should be pulled, because then they go back to reading number one. So.
what I would agree about, because I am on the policy committee, but I was not here for the first reading. I wasn't here at the last meeting where the first reading was approved. But I would agree that there is some confusing parts between the policy and like our online participation form. So those things need to be, we need to make sure that they align.
Yep.
So for that purpose, I would be willing to have further discussion about that, because I do think that there are some discrepancies and that we do need to be a little more clear. And I know at the policy committee, again, I'm not sure if you guys discussed this last time, but we talked about a limit on the amount of people that do come and want to speak just for the sake of time, and also a time limit that those individuals have as well. So, I mean, again, I just want to make sure that it's cut and dry, 4 people who do want to speak. So if there's any confusion and discrepancies between the online form and the policy, I want to make sure that those are
Thanks, Brandy. Thanks.
clear.
And at the policy meeting I just attended to listen, there are also some discussion about special meetings or working sessions too, whether the public would be allowed input or not. I know it was discussed. I don't know that it came forth as a recommendation not to allow that, but that's still a possibility to be discussed.
What I recall, we discussed
You discussed not doing it.
not doing it.
I know, but that.
Special meeting.
That needs to come back to the full board for discussion. And that didn't come as a recommendation either during the first reading.
So
But it was a discussion.
It was, yeah.
you wanted, just for my clarification here, there's a motion to withdraw 7.11, 7.12.
Yeah. 11,
And what other ones?
11, 14, and 18.
11, 14, and 18.
Yeah, and at this time, that's all I could handle as far as, looking through them. And we do have discretion in some of these policies, and I'd just like to talk about some of them.
If we change the wording on them, they'll have to go
Right.
back to first.
Right. That's why I wanted to discuss them last time. So how do you want to do this? You want to just take the ones I have comments on first?
If we can address it here, I think that would be better, so we can continue to move on with
Perfect.
approving the policies.
Okay, so 1.1, policy 203.2. It's basically our agenda outline under Roman numeral 3. And we've had, through practice and actually on many of our agendas since this board became, it was the second meeting after this board became a consolidated board. Before approval of agenda, we always had agenda additions and deletions, and Evelyn Gilbert always had that. And so there's no problems. There was a problem at one meeting where Bill and I both had an agenda addition, and it went straight to agenda approval without even being able to do that. But in our practice, we've always had additions and deletions, and it doesn't make sense not to put that in there as we have in the past before number 2, approval of agenda. So that's just a simple,
I think there was a reason that we took it out, wasn't there?
we really didn't formally take it out.
Stopped having it on the agenda.
We just did it, and it just disappeared. Yeah.
And I think part of that is notice.
When I asked for the agenda to be approved, I asked if there's any additions or deletions. That's the way you ask that question. And then we have things that are pulled or things that are added, like we did tonight. So it doesn't matter if you add that back in or you don't. It's just the proper way to do it.
That's my point.
Well, but if it's approved the agenda, motion is made to approve the agenda, you have a second, you have a discussion. If someone wants to add something that the majority of the board members present want to add or delete, you just vote the amendment, or you vote the approval of the agenda down, then you add it, and then you vote it up.
That hasn't been our practice. Even
It has been when we put the mask agenda on by surprise. When you and Cole and Brandy got that mask agenda on by surprise, and the rest of us didn't have a heads up. Excuse me.
It's because
Excuse me.
The agenda.
No, but
an addition.
Appropriate.
So it's not. But anyhow, what would it hurt to put that in our order? Because we did have a problem at specifically one meeting where additions were not allowed to be put on the agenda.
We didn't have a problem.
It has not been. It's
there
not
was a
that way.
motion to approve
I don't remember.
And it was approved.
Been a problem.
And it's not a consistent problem if it's happened once.
Well, we never changed it. We can insert it here. It wouldn't hurt to say additions and deletions before you approve the agenda, and it only makes sense.
And I
What does
believe
it hurt to put it in?
I believe we had discussion on that before the agenda was approved. I know we did.
We did.
We're talking about two different,
No, we're talking about the same thing.
asking one?
It was in Gilbert, correct?
Asking one?
No, I'm not talking, I'm talking about the meeting in Gilbert.
Yeah,
That's the one.
I wasn't at that meeting. It was in Gilbert. It was the very first one. He started I think we came together, correct?
No.
Was that?
No,
Not that far?
Last summer is the one I'm thinking
I
of.
went back and I reviewed the agendas since we were consolidated. And it was the very first one after our reorganizational meeting where we had additions and deletions. Evelyn Gilbert always had that on their agenda. I'm just saying it's not a big thing. I don't know why.
Okay, so let's.
It hasn't been an issue for 4 years.
Yeah,
But yes, it has.
okay,
So that's the suggested change I would make for that one.
Right.
And we've already removed 3, recognition of visitors and visitor input on agenda items only. That's the original change.
Which I would just note, I think that's a mistake.
So I'd make a motion to add agenda additions and deletions as number 2 and then
Well,
renumber.
we can't add it tonight and vote on it. It'll be the first reading, and I would like to see everything that we're changing brought back.
Maybe it is better for her to send out her proposed changes and then we can all,
So how do you change something then?
Well, I mean, I think what we could do is we could move forward with the policies here that no one has a problem with having the second reading on. We can kick the rest of them out if we want to do that and start over with them.
You could submit our changes to the policy committee. We could have more time to review them and then.
Yes.
Our recommendation and bring it back to the full board.
That's why I asked which one she wanted to pull,
that makes the most sense.
and that does
I'm
make
good
the
with
most
that, too.
sense.
That's fine. You know, like Brandy said, if you can do it simply, that's fine. 1 or 2 of these others, it might just be something really simple that you'd say, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and we could do it that way too. I don't care. I would be happy to do that.
You can send them back.
Sounds good.
Okay, sounds good to me.
So we pulled 7.11, 7.12, 7.11, 7.114, and 7.118.
Correct.
And, okay.
That
Is that good?
Yes, and to add 203.5.
203 and add.
And we have to also look at the guidelines and the form. Visitor input
Okay.
form. They're all one, okay?
Very good.
Bring that form and or whatever we need to do to look at that so we can
The online.
pick it apart.
form. Yep, online form. To make this,
Hey, Chairman of the Board, may I quickly interject that the policy committee, I was there, the policy committee did take care of the discrepancies between the policies on who could participate for public input. And so that's why in policy 203, you have a red line through one of the first statements. So that was troubling to some people, so the policy committee made that recommendation. They took care of that, they aligned it with the online form, so the recommendations for all 3 of those, they are now in alignment, that people can come to the public, they can talk, they can also talk on things that are on the agenda and also not on the agenda. So I just want the full board to know the policy committee did talk about that, and they are suggesting those alignments of the policies.
And you are mistaken, I must say that I will show in my, whenever I do my work and hand it to you, that the policies are not aligned, as you say, and the guidelines and the form. So let's move on.
the thing is that we're sending these back so that they can be wordsmithed and they can be realigned, that they all will realign. Now, I'm going to ask if you and Nicole will pull your motion, and you can make a new motion for 7.11, 7.12, 203.5, 7.111, 7.114, and 7.118. We'll pull those, send them back to the policy committee.
With your edits, we can review them.
Is that some, can you make a motion so forth?
We won't pull them to discuss here tonight. We would pull them to throw it back to the committee.
Pull them to send them back to the committee.
You email regarding what you feel is
And I will send,
discrepancy.
And all board members can weigh in.
No, I will send it to all board members, even though
Yep.
the committee will.
I think you need to send it to Stacy and then she sends it out
She
to
sends
everybody.
it, yeah,
Well, you know what I meant. Just that all board members get it so they know what they are.
and any board member that wants to send something, send it to Stacy and she can distribute it to all board members and to the committee. So is that fine with you two to change your?
Yes.
Okay, with you, Nicole?
Yes.
Very good. So we are going to pull those. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries unanimously. Now we would,
I would make a motion to adopt of the policies that were not.
okay.
Support.
So we have a motion by Matt, support by Brandy. Second reading on the rest of the policies that are in 7.1. Is there any discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carries. Unanimous. 7.2, policies with non-substantive changes.
Make a motion.
Support.
Motion by John, support by Bill. And that would be 7.21, 7.22, 7.23, 7.24, and 7.25. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Policies with non-substantive changes, 600 policies. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of them. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
We have a motion by Bill,
Second.
support by Nicole.
Discussion, it just to let you know that if I do find things to recommend or to change or to make right, I will be making those recommendations at a subsequent meeting because there's just too much all at once for me to handle.
Yep. And that's fine. Very
Okay,
good.
that's all.
Is there any other discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously. Administration item. 8.1. Why don't you fill us in on that?
All right, here's the story, members of the school board. Gilbert is full of surprises. Good surprises.
Yes.
There is a piano in Gilbert. It's a Steinway. Now, if you don't know very much about piano, Steinway, it is the creme de la creme. This is a great piano. It has been there for I don't know how many years. It has a long history. I've heard stories about people who used to play on it. It was located by the auditorium, second floor. So what you have in front of you is, this is not a normal piano. This is a great piano. Any individual who has played piano will know. If you say Steinway, they're going to know what you're talking about. This is the piano that I believe the district should preserve. This piano, if you tried to buy a piano like this in fixed up condition on the open market, $60,000 to $100,000. I am not making that up. So the piano needs some work. It just hasn't been used. And just like most things, that there's some things that need fixing on it. So what you have in front of you, we did try to get bids from multiple companies. We got two. We got one from a company in Duluth, was for $40,000 for the equivalent. This is the lowest bid that we received. We have some anonymous donors who are willing to pay for it. However, the dollar value is such that it needs to come here before the school board. So the general idea would be to, if you say yes, would be to fix it up. And you can see that on the proposal from the company doing it, they would put in some non-Steinway parts on it. And if you're a purist, it will lower the value a little bit. But we're not trying to sell or maximize the piano. We just want to put it in good working order. So the idea would be to put it in the high school somewhere. Could be in the where the main lobby is. We'll fix it up. This is a nice instrument. It should be displayed with pride. Seriously, this is a really nice instrument.
And you're saying we already have generous donors who are going to take care of the cost? Is that what you're saying?
Donor, anonymous donor.
A donor, okay, thank you.
But still, the dollar value
Right.
needs to come to the full school board. So this is the proposal, so it's up to you whether you would like us to go forward with this proposal.
I'll make a motion to.
Second.
Motion by Director Addy, second by Director Culver-Dahl. Any discussion?
Oh, you had two bids. The low bid, are they as capable as the ones high bid? They can perform the work?
One of the key differences is this bid is going to use some non-Steinway parts. The other bid would have, but it's also $15,000 more. We believe they're just as capable of doing this restoration work.
How do the donors feel about using non-Steinway parts? Do they have any,
No, they have no qualms.
it's been discussed with them?
Yes, also, a very select group of purists would say only Steinway. But it just costs a lot more.
Your hearing and my hearing, we wouldn't know the difference.
Right.
I like that it's local too, that'll stay locally,
Okay, so we have a motion. Any other discussion?
If we could only get a Stradivarius file in with, that would be in good shape. Kidding.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried unanimously. Consider approval of bid from Utility Systems of America for snow removal from district parking lots for this coming year, 22-23.
Moved.
Support.
Good. Motion by Director Yuhan, second by Director Addy. Any discussion?
Just let it be known that no other person bid on this, and that this company is just right down the hill. Okay, and after just listening to the director, Buildings and Grounds Director, that it sounds like these guys are really, really good at what they do, and I have no problems with them being that we wouldn't have to wait hours for them to get here.
And they bought some equipment that would help them efficiently take care of us.
And I have experience with these guys, snow removal, same capacity. They did my restaurant when I had that. Excellent job, never an issue. Good operators. I think it's a no-brainer.
Okay. Is there any more discussion?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that it's not a no-brainer or anything, but you said we had no other person to bid, no other bids. Did we posted and advertised properly for competitive bidding?
My code, it ran in the paper.
Okay.
The biggest concern was that these people would have to bring all their equipment in. They would be coming from Virginia, across the bridge, down the highway with their equipment, or trailering it, or they'd be coming from, who else there was another company. A couple of people, it was just too far for them to drive.
I have no problem with any of that, but I'm just big on competitive bidding, that's all. I just had to ask that question. And then, do we have any idea, an estimate of what this is going to be costing us?
We don't know what snow we're gonna get.
We haven't.
What did we budget for it?
We didn't have a budget for it.
And was that based somewhat on these
You
rates?
have to base something on something, I'd like to know how much.
Yes. I am now going to quote Mike Hogue, who is not here, so I'm going to accurately quote him. So he and Jim Andrick, this is what they do in the wintertime. They look at plowing and get plowing. So they did the math. This one is by the hour. And so they looked at the number of hours that we had used last year to plow various places. And then they looked at the hours here and the estimate, and they both, Mike Hogue, believes that this is very close. He does say this guy is leaving some wiggle room because he's going by hours, because he doesn't know. He's never done this before. He honestly doesn't know. And we don't know either, because it's a new parking lot. There's new dimensions. So Mike Hogue told us that he thought the guy's bid was very fair compared to what we had paid last year.
And he also knows that some of that snow will have to be hauled off a site, and that site is not going to be 5 miles away, 2 miles away. It's going to be more like less than a quarter mile away. They'll be able to dump the excess snow on their property, which is right down the hill.
Yeah, it has to be done. It has to be done. I just would like, if there's any kind of estimate of some kind of cost.
Well, they,
Based on last year's hours, excuse
they
me.
based it on last year's, so.
And what hours were there last year, but now we've got more road space and more parking lots this year.
Not necessarily, because we're also reducing snow plow in other areas. Mike did the math with Jim Andrick, the two of them.
What did you come up with?
And they said, this is I don't know what the dollar figure was as I'm standing here right now. I'll get it to you. They said the dollar figure, they believe it's going to be about the same
As last year.
as last year.
Okay, any other discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Carried unanimously, 8-0. Consider determining who will construct the varsity baseball and softball press boxes at the new fields at Rockridge. The Rockridge Student Built or Local Carpenters Union Trade Out of Hermantown.
Members of the school board, you have an interesting situation, and I believe we have someone in the audience who, if you have questions, might be able to answer some of them. However, here's the basic situation. The student bills. We started this whole thing knowing we wanted the football, the garage down by the storage shed by the baseball fields, the dugouts, the press boxes, and then there's another storage shed by the football field. We wanted those to be student bills. And that's how we have moved along and progressed, having them be student bills. And by all accounts so far, they have been successful as student bills. But they're student bills. We can only bill them as fast as the students have courses and Greg Foster has time to go out there. He is actually on schedule. He and the students are doing exactly what they told us they were going to do and to be done. However, we have some new events that may change things. We will not be able to have the press boxes done in time for some of the baseball games to be played on the fields. We also won't have them on the softball field for some of those games to be played. So the question before you tonight is, do we stick to the original schedule that Greg Foster was going to do with the student bills, or do you want us to accelerate the process a little bit by having some carpenters, individuals who are working and training to be carpenters, to be working on the press boxes on the varsity baseball field, and I think we'd be taking a look at the varsity softball fields at the same time. So that's the plan in front of you. They're both different. One of them does remove students from the equation, but the press boxes are going to be done faster if you say yes to go do this. Will Greg Foster's kids have enough to do in the future for student builds? Yes, because they still have the dugouts to finish. There's a larger storage shed up on the football field, so they will be working on that. There's an outdoor learning station, which is in back of the high school, that they were going to work on also. We don't know what's going to happen with the which eventually is going to come back to this board for your consideration. So the question is, do you want us to stick to the original schedule, or would you like to have to work with the carpenters union and those who are working to become carpenters and have them help on the project to accelerate the two press boxes? That's, in short, the question before the board. The Buildings and Grounds Facilities has talked about this several times. So that's the basic.
They've talked about it one time. Activities Committee talked about it two times. Talked about it twice. So, I mean.
Three times committees have talked about it.
What did they think? What did the committees think?
The go ahead. The urgency, I guess, to get these done faster is we have the chance to host a state Legion baseball tournament next summer, and a very good chance of hosting the section finals in both softball and in baseball. So to get those facilities up and running and it is obviously my opinion, it'd be very important to get those done as fast as we can. Not to take anything away from the students.
Right.
They've done a great job, but they do have a lot of other work they can do. I mean, years of work they have left, and we have a large investment down there to put into play to get those facilities up and
And
running.
what great exposure to have like the State Legion baseball tournament here.
Correct.
Wow.
And it was said that they will, that the press box had to be built before they would even consider it, correct?
Well, I don't think that was exactly spelled out,
Yeah.
but once you get in the rotation, if you do it right, you can be within like one every 3 or 4 years or 2 or 3 years, and they're going to keep coming back to us.
And I mean, when I look at what we just saw from Kraus's presentation, it'd be a minimum of 3 years that these press boxes, I mean, they're scheduled to be built
The last one on that list, I think
up until
4 years.
June of '26. At least 3 years of us using the fields where you didn't have the press boxes.
I'd make a motion to get some more information about that. I would support accelerating that. I think it's for the best for everybody, but I'd like to know cost, maybe timetable for them also.
We have those answers here. I mean,
Well-
there's no cost, it's volunteer.
Okay.
The timetable would be immediate. They could start building them in their shop in Hermantown and reassemble in pieces here.
Okay, so that's,
February-ish, March-ish, when not
Yeah.
to put you on the spot, but
I think, I don't see why it couldn't be, the structure's up this year yet.
okay.
okay,
Weather dependent.
So
In
the,
December, depending on weather, yeah.
so the materials will be purchased here, okay? And how they got down to Hermantown, we haven't figured it out yet. They'd be built down there in a controlled environment. Am I correct?
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay. Put together in panels. They would have to get inspected by the state, loaded on a truck, brought back up here in panels, put together, inspected by the state, put the trusses on, inspected by the state, correct? Am I correct? Then they would wrap it, put the windows in, inspected by the state again, and then put the siding on it. And then it would be the final inspection, and that would happen rather fast, am I correct?
I believe so. Again, on our end, I think everything could happen quick down in the shop, get up here.
Okay.
I would think all your inspections would be on site.
Okay.
I don't work at this every day, but I would think it's built there, brought up here, assemble, tie back or whatever they need to do.
And the products would be all bought locally.
Correct.
But the issue is getting the product or to the materials to Hermantown. That's the issue.
That's the only thing, that's the only variable.
That's the only
Yeah.
thing that hasn't really been discussed. We didn't know what
We didn't know if the local lumber company's going to deliver it, or if we were going to deliver it with one of our employees, and like that, and how it was going to get back here,
yeah, so
panels.
the only cost, the materials and transportation of
Right.
finished product and material.
And
I think
it would be done way ahead of schedule, and we'd be in the game for these baseball tournaments.
So I did make the motion, and somebody want to second it?
I'll second.
Well, at first I said more discussion.
Information.
So I'll make the motion to go ahead and do it.
Okay.
Because you answered my question of no cost, except for,
motion by Polly to support by Brandy
Right, yep.
to accelerate it. Is there any more discussion?
I just wondered what funds would these come out of? Was it in our bonding project fund, or would this be general fund money?
No, this is not general fund money. It is part of the total construction package. We just haven't used it yet. And so that's where the funds would come from.
That's even better.
Okay, is there any more discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're on a roll, 8-0.
Wonderful.
Thanks for
Thanks for staying to the end there.
Thank you.
8.4, SRO, and everybody,
I'll move to support. I'll move on 8.4.
And I'll support.
a motion by Director Addy, second by Director Lotiger. Any discussion?
What, is it just on the Virginia campus, or what?
Correct.
Yes, is it Parkview and high school?
Yes,
Okay.
So I've talked to the other police chiefs, and we're gonna have more discussion, especially when we go into the new high school, because we're gonna have to rethink this arrangement. This is only for this year, and yes, this is a holdover from Virginia. We don't have the equivalent on the Evelyn Gilbert side right now. So we are in discussions, we will talk about it some more, but the city of Virginia is asking, which is why we have it before you.
So then their one from last year must have expired and it's
Correct.
renewed? Okay, could we not?
And I know that for the rest of the board members that we have been, last year we passed one just for Virginia. We were in contact with Evelyn Gilbert, both departments, about doing the same. And so it's an ongoing process that they wanted to push off until our new high school is done, and then we'll figure out how we're going to do it.
So is that what they wanted? They weren't interested or?
No, they
Sheriff?
are interested.
Okay.
They want to know more details, but what a lot of folks don't realize is talking to the police chiefs, they cooperate a lot behind the scenes. So the Gilbert Police Department cooperates with the Evelyn Police Department, they cooperate with the Virginia Police Department. So if there are events, they all work together and they all help each other. So it's just, especially on the high school, we need to figure out some of the more details, but we're not quite there yet. So we're just a few months away from that. So we'll be talking about the SRO again before the spring hits us.
And I didn't read the whole thing. There must be a price in their cost.
There is,
32,000.
32,000?
it's the same it was last year.
32,781.
Is there any other discussion? With no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Meeting announcements. 9.1, School Board Candidate Forum will be held Thursday, October 27th at 7:30 PM at Rock Ridge Administration Building, here 1405 Progress Parkway.
I'd like to add that it's sponsored by the NHS. I assume that's why it's on our agenda, because it's a school-sponsored thing.
Correct. Thank you, Polly.
Which is excellent. I always like to see students getting involved, so.
Definitely.
9.2, School Board General Election, Tuesday, November 8th, 2022, open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7.3, next regular board meeting will be held on November 14th, 2022, 6 p.m. here at Rock Ridge Admin Building. One thing I want to add to this is I know that 6 people on this board filled out superintendent's evaluation. I don't know who filled it out. So they've all been shredded because we need 9 people to fill them out. I brought this to the board 3 times. Now this is the 4th time. Stacy will send out, you still have that, right? If not, I have them in my computer. She will send it out to you, and at our next board meeting, which will be in 2 weeks, please, everybody, fill the evaluation out. And
Kind of curious, Tim. I mean, with the election right around the corner, I don't get it. Am I missing?
Well, I mean, as you know, I've been asking for a long time, as you know, also Director Schultz, when you were the chair, that I think that's one of our fundamental duties as the board.
but I can't,
But we can't, I mean, so we can let one person not fill out their.
we had three
And that'll,
members that,
that's all, or well,
3 board members, I brought it the next meeting, because I know Polly asked about it. I brought it up at our next meeting. I said, there's still 3 people out. I brought it up at the next meeting. This is the 3rd time I brought it up. I don't want to have an evaluation without all the board members' input. And all you have to do, if you don't want to give any input, is put on there, no input, send it to Stacy.
they are given no input if they don't fill the form out, and we got to move on with our business.
That is true.
I have shredded them because I have no idea.
I have no problem with that. I don't want to use the form that I filled out back in March.
And exactly, now we've gone several months without it, so please fill it out. If you don't want to fill it out, put no opinion, send it to Stacy. She will get me all 9 of them, and then we will have a special meeting to discuss it in closed session.
Again, to reiterate, it's one of our most important jobs. So
Yes.
I would hope that somebody would not fill it out and say no input, because it's
Yeah.
our responsibility to do that.
So you want our
Very good.
names? You want our names on everyone?
No, I do not.
We should know who's filling them in and who isn't filling them in, and call whoever doesn't turn it in. I mean, I don't want
Everybody's going to fill it in by the next board meeting.
At that point, I was one that did not fill it in, and to your point, you wouldn't want something from March to be considered now, right? And
Yes.
I agree with that. And that is the rationale that I had when you and I talked, Tim. I said, well, if it's just a board evaluation, to me, it's not valid. Because there are other people that, I don't work with the superintendent as much as other people do, administrators, teachers, maybe even parents. That would be a big thing with parents and everything, but I don't think it's going to give us much information for just board members to fill it out.
I'm going to be honest,
my identity.
I'm surprised you're saying that. I mean, because
Statute.
you speak a lot about what our job duties and responsibilities.
I think that's an important,
That is an important one
it is.
for us as a board to be doing. I mean, it's
I agree with you.
clear that that's a job duty.
I totally agree.
I'm surprised that you have not done that.
Very good.
I just gave you my rationale.
I understand everyone's point on this. I hope you understand mine.
No, one more thing, you can't, no, just a minute, deliberation. You had also told me, and I said, well, what about the staff? You said the staff did one last year, so that's an.
Deliberation going on right now.
That, you said the staff did it last year, and I said, well, then that's old, that's not accurate.
Yes.
So that's another reason, it was an old one, that's another reason I didn't fill it out, because we weren't going to use the staff evaluation as part of this, because it was old.
Very good. Right now, the board is doing what the board is supposed to do, and that's evaluate our superintendent, so everyone get it done. Next year, we can change the whole process. I'm looking for adjournment.
So Tim.
Whoa, what?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I know. No, but.
We have a motion.
You can talk about it after.
Go ahead.
But we're going to negotiate, Thursday or Wednesday? Wednesday, Superintendent Schmidt's contract. Huh?
What's that all about?
Yeah, we didn't know
Is there a
that.
committee meeting scheduled or something?
We didn't know that.
We are negotiating Noel's contract for people from the board.
Is that a committee?
The negotiating committee.
I thought there were 3 on the negotiating committee.
One of the members wanted equal participation from
Both previous,
both sides.
both previous.
I did. I wanted,
So is this a committee meeting that's been scheduled, or just an impromptu group of
I don't-
members getting together to talk?
Evidently.
I mean, I got an email. I don't know if,
I got an email as well,
Yes.
as an inclusion, I would assume, because I'm typically not on the negotiations committee, so I got an
She
email.
was asked because she was on the original one.
and I requested that a representation from the old Evelyn Gilbert district.
I get that, but I'm surprised that we haven't gotten a notice that there's a committee meeting.
Has it been posted?
I knew nothing about it.
Okay.
So that actually,
Then we won't be doing it until we meet the 3-day
I guess.
requirement, so.
Yes, and the other thing is that the chair, according to our policy, the chair appoints, but the board votes and approves committees. So now this would have to go back to the board, because you appoint, we approve any changes in committees. So just so you know what our policy says.
Very good. I'm looking for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
I supported it.
We have a motion by Director Schultz, second by Director Solberg. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, carried.